You're standing in front of your new TV, and the sound coming out of it is thin, tinny, and honestly kind of embarrassing for something that cost you this much. So you do the sensible thing. You open 10 browser tabs, soundbar versus speakers, and every single article says the same useless 3 words.
It depends. Thanks, very helpful. Here's the answer that those articles keep dancing around.
Because here's the truth. The question itself is broken. People argue soundbar versus speakers like it's 2 choices, and they're missing a third option that actually fits more homes than either of them.
By the end of this video, you won't be choosing between 2 boxes. You'll answer 3 honest questions about your own room, and the right answer will pick itself.
So let's start with why this is even a question. Modern TVs are gorgeous and impossibly thin, and that thinness is exactly the problem. There's no room inside for a real speaker, so the audio gets shoved out of tiny down-firing drivers that sound like someone talking through a wall. Fixing that splits into 3 real paths, not 2, and almost every comparison online only tells you about 2 of them. Option 1, the soundbar. Option 2, traditional speakers, and option 3, the one nobody mentions, is the bridge between them. Get this distinction right and the whole decision gets easy. Get it wrong and you either overspend on complexity you'll never use, or you buy something too simple and regret it in a year. So let's actually define the 3. Path 1. The soundbar. It's a single, long cabinet that sits under your TV, packed with several drivers, the speaker elements that actually move air to make sound, all firing from one bar. You connect it with one cable, usually through HDMI ARC, and you're done in about 5 minutes. Quick translation, because this matters later. HDMI ARC, the audio return channel, is the port that lets one cable carry sound from the TV to the bar, and lets you control volume with your TV remote. There's a better version called EARC, the enhanced version, and we'll come back to why that one matters for movies. Path 2, traditional passive speakers. These are the classic 2 boxes or more that have no built-in power. They need an amplifier or an AV receiver, the big box that powers the speakers and switches between all your sources, to drive them. This is the path with the highest ceiling and the most work. You run speaker wire, you match components, you calibrate, but you also get true stereo separation, real left and right channels physically apart in the room, and you can start with 2 speakers and build all the way up to a full surround system over years.
And then there's path 3, the one those 10 articles forgot.
Powered speakers with HDMI ARC. Think of them as speakers that swallowed the amplifier. They're a proper stereo pair, real separation, real cabinets, but the amp, the circuit that makes the signal loud enough to drive the speakers, is built right into the box. So there's no receiver to buy and no rack of components to wire together. And the newer ones plug straight into your TV with the same single HDMI cable as a soundbar does, and let you control volume with your TV remote, exactly like a bar does. Here's the honest truth about this category. It barely existed a few years ago. The first powered speakers with HDMI ARC only really arrived around 2020, and even now a lot of reviewers still skip them entirely, which is exactly why most people never hear about them. But for a huge number of homes, this is the sweet spot. You get most of the stereo quality of a full separate system with something very close to soundbar level simplicity. Now, why do separate speakers sound better than a bar in the first place? It's not magic, it's physics. The amount of bass a speaker can produce is limited by the size of its drivers and the volume of air inside the cabinet. A normal speaker box has real internal volume to move air. A soundbar is deliberately thin so it hides under your TV, and that thinness physically caps how much low end it can make. That's also why almost every soundbar ships with a separate subwoofer, the dedicated box that handles only the deep bass. The bar literally can't do that part on its own. The second physical advantage is stereo imaging, how precisely you can place each instrument and voice in space. When your left and right channels are 2 feet apart, your ears can locate sounds across a wide stage. When they're 8 inches apart inside one bar, that stage collapses toward the middle. A bar can simulate width with processing, but it can't beat geometry.
So on raw sound quality, especially for music, separate speakers win. That part isn't really a debate.
But, and this is where the internet oversimplifies, sound quality is not the only thing that matters in a real living room. So let's talk about what actually happens when you live with these. Start with the things soundbars are genuinely, quietly great at: dialogue. Most soundbars are tuned specifically to make voices clear, and many have a dedicated center channel, a driver whose only job is reproducing speech, sitting right in the middle of the bar. A basic stereo pair of speakers has no center channel at all, so voices share the same drivers as the music, the explosions, and everything else competing for attention. On dialogue-heavy TV, that dedicated center is a real audible advantage.
If your nights are mostly TV shows, news, and movies where you keep reaching for the remote because you can't hear what they said, a soundbar is built for exactly you.
Next, surround sound, because this is where marketing gets slippery. You'll see soundbars advertised with words like immersive, 360 degrees, and Dolby Atmos. Here's the honest version. A single bar cannot physically put sound behind you. It fakes it by bouncing audio off your walls and ceiling with up-firing drivers and clever processing. And that ceiling trick has a catch nobody puts on the box. Up-firing Atmos only works if you have a flat ceiling at a fairly normal height, so the sound can bounce back down to you. If your ceiling is vaulted, sloped, textured, or has exposed beams, that overhead effect basically disappears. Real surround, the kind where something genuinely moves behind your head, still needs physical speakers behind you. Then there's the cable detail that quietly decides your movie quality. Remember EARC? If you want full lossless Dolby Atmos from your streaming apps or a 4K disc, you need an HDMI ARC connection. The older optical cable and even plain EARC caps you at compressed surround, and some services won't send the good stuff over optical at all. Now flip it around to the speaker side, because they have real-world downsides too. 2 boxes or 5, plus stands, plus wiring, plus possibly a receiver, take up genuine space and genuine effort. And here's a truth the audiophile forums won't admit. A system that's annoying to set up often just gets used wrong or returned. The best sounding system in the world is worthless if it's so fiddly that you leave it on the wrong setting forever. Convenience isn't a luxury here. For a lot of people, it's the single biggest factor in whether they actually enjoy what they bought. But speakers win the long game in 2 ways that genuinely matter. Longevity. A good pair of passive speakers can last 10, 15 years or more, while soundbars tend to be replaced far sooner. And upgradability. You can start with a simple stereo pair and add a subwoofer, then rear speakers, then height channels, building toward true surround one piece at a time. A soundbar is mostly what it is on day one. In cost, this is where both camps lie to you a little. At the entry level, soundbars really are cheaper. A capable bar can run well under $150 all in. But up at the premium end, around $900 and beyond, a receiver with quality speakers and a subwoofer often beats a flagship soundbar on pure stereo for the same money.
So forget which one is better. Here are the 3 honest questions that actually decide it for your room.
Question 1. What do you mostly do in this room? If it's TV shows, news, and movies in a normal shared living room, and you want it simple, the soundbar is genuinely the smart pick, not a compromise, the right tool. Question 2. Do you actually listen to music or care about stereo imaging? If yes, but you still want one tidy setup with no receiver, this is where Path 3 shines. Powered speakers with HDMI ARC give you real stereo for music and still plug into the TV like a bar. Question 3. Do you have a dedicated space, and do you want to build something that lasts and grows into true surround? If that's you, passive speakers and a receiver are worth every bit of the extra effort. You're not buying a gadget, you're starting a system. And layer 2 quick filters on top of those questions. First, your ceiling. If it's vaulted, sloped, or textured, don't pay a premium for up-firing Atmos because it physically won't bounce back to you. Second, your space. In a tiny apartment, footprint and simplicity probably matter more to your daily life than the last 10% of sound quality, and that's a completely valid reason to choose the bar. Be honest with yourself about both before you spend a cent. So, are soundbars better than speakers? The honest answer is no, and also yes, and the question was never the right one.
For most ordinary living rooms where TV and dialogue rule the night, the soundbar honestly is the better choice. For music lovers and anyone building something to last, it isn't.
The real win is knowing that the fight was never two-sided. The option most people never hear about, powered speakers with HDMI ARC, is the quiet answer for more homes than the internet lets on. Match the tool to your room, not to a forum argument, and you can't really lose.
So tell me in the comments, after those 3 questions, which one are you? Soundbar, powered speakers, or full system? I'm genuinely curious how this audience splits. Like and subscribe to Headphones Pro Review, and I'll catch you in the next one.